Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, everyone. This is our 50-minute webinar series. Topic for today is tracking rogue spend and Maverick buys. Just a quick intro to what we mean by those terms. It's a practice of purchasing goods or services outside of established procurement processes, negotiate contracts, or authorized vendor channels. This typically happens when a maintenance technician or engineer, plant engineer, just goes out and buys things at the local store and brings it back in and starts using them instead of sourcing it through the proper procurement channels, processes, and so forth. The key is the rogue spend is not meant to be bad, but the consequences could be quite significant and bad. You have lost savings. Large enterprises negotiate volume discounts, and when someone goes to just a local retailer store and buys something, they're probably paying 15-20% higher than what you've negotiated, what the purchasing department has negotiated. Secondly, creates invisible inventory. If parts are bought outside the system, it typically isn't tracked. If it's not consumed immediately, it's stuck in someone's locker, and this ghost inventory starts building up, and people don't know the parts exist, and leads to duplicate orders and extra spending and so forth. Um, it's also data pollution. A lot of the rogue spend is when it creates blind spots, right? You're buying stuff that you have in inventory or you have item master for, but when it's purchased, it's not recorded as this item. It's recorded as a miscellaneous item, and therefore it's hard to track. It's hard to figure out who's buying it, when, where, and what's being used, and so forth. Then there's safety and warranty issues, right? And you have approved parts in your item master that perhaps have gone through engineering, through safety, and so forth. And if someone just going out to the local store buy something, it totally bypasses all those processes and procedures. To manage rogue spend, right? Again, as I said earlier, it's usually not malicious. They're not trying to do something bad. Okay, it's really born out of a desire to get the job done. They're simply trying to get the job done. And the part that they need isn't available, so they're out there just finding out alternative ways of getting it. So it's a symptom of a broken process, not necessarily of a broken person. Um, you can try putting controls in, but to truly kill rogue spend, you really need to address the root cause. Okay, to do this, you need to analyze where rogue spend is happening, why, and for what types of items. And that's the problem, because most of the time, this information is not collected. So it happens, but then you don't know how, where, and why it happened. Okay, you can't study it, you can't analyze it. You can't manage something that you can't measure, and therefore you can't fix it. Okay, you typically all you have is an amount and a supplier. We bought $200 from Home Depot. What can you do with that? You don't know what was purchased, not for which work order, for which asset. So usually it gets dumped into some general cost account. So this webinar is to discuss how one furniture manufacturer worked with us to enhance their process to collect the information needed to take corrective action. The way their old process worked was they would someone, the tradesperson that needs something would simply go to a buyer and say, I need to go this, give me a PO. The buyer would just, blindly create a spot buy PO, which is really a PO without the lines on it, and give them the PO number. And they would go to the vendor and give them that PO number as a payment process. Okay. But in this case, the buyer is doing the data entry, right? There's no real approver. The buyer really doesn't know whether this is legit purchase or not. They're just kind of hoping that that's the case, and they approve it. It slows down the whole process. You got to track down buyer, get their number, get the information back and forth and all that. And then what's even worse, many organizations don't even have that. They simply use P cards, so the person doesn't get any authorization at all. They just go out there, use the P card, make a purchase, and that's that. So after that, they would go to the store and buy whatever they need. And when they return, they would typically give the buyer the receipt and say, here it is, and they might write down the work order number. They might not. The work order number that was for, and then the buyer enters the amount into the system. But usually there's no item details are collected properly. The buyer is the data entry clerk again, right? A lot of time that the work order is not either written down or entered, or it's hard to read what they wrote on the receipt and all that stuff, so it's just lost. And then with credit cards, it's even worse. But think of this: if you're the buyer and you get a receipt like this, it says 6CU Steel A. What was that? What's a 6CU Steel A? How likely is the buyer to be able to interpret this and match it to an actual item master record in Maximo? Odds are not. So therefore, basically, they'll just end up saying, we spent $90.07 at Home Depot, and that's that. You don't know what was for, and you can't fix the bottom issue. So what the new process involves is creating a spot buy purchase requisition in Maximo. Okay, so the requester doesn't call the buyer and says, give me a PO number. The requester goes in, Maximo, creates a spot buy PR. So PR that's flagged as a spot buy, specifying the vendor, the amount that they estimate that they'll spend, the charge to work order, and a reason for spot buy. So now here you're getting a reason. This is your root cause analysis. What's the reason why they're buying it? It was stocked out. It was unavailable. It was the wrong part. Whatever the reason, there's a reason why they're doing this. They can tell you right now. Okay. And it creates a spot buy per RPR without any lines. Okay. If your business policies require, the spot buy amount can be actually approved. So it could go electronically using Maximo workflow to their boss, for the boss to say, yes, I approve. Now, the boss is more likely to know what this is about and determine how legitimate this expense is versus a buyer who's really not involved in the process. So here, the maintenance supervisor says, yes, go ahead, spend $300 at Home Depot. Okay. After the approval, the system gives them a PO number, or if no approval is required, it gives them a PO number immediately that they can then go to the vendor and use that for payment. Then they go do the shopping. When they return with the items, they go back to the PR and add the items purchased to the PR, and then forward the process onwards. If the amount was at or below the approved amount, pre-approved amount, then it's auto approved. It just goes and continues. If it's not, it goes for reapproval. So if they said you can spend $300, but you spent $400, it will go for reapproval again through Maximo electronically routed to the right people. Once the PR is approved, the system adds the items to the PO, and the PO goes to buyer for final review and validation. So now the buyer is validating something that's been pre-approved by the maintenance supervisor or someone in charge in the maintenance area. When the buyer approves the items, they're received. So we have a receipt for the receipt record in there. Okay, and the PO and the PR are closed. Now the system is ready for a three-way match when the invoice comes in. And now you have the information to analyze what is being purchased this way and why, so you can take corrective action. So let me just show you a few of the screenshots. Okay, on the PR, we've added basically this line where you need to create a spot by PR. You flag it as spot by PR. You specify the vendor, you specify how much you expect to spend, you specify the work order number and the reason for buyout. And then you press this button, create a spot by PO. Okay, if you don't need approval, based on business policies, it'll create a PO number immediately for you. If you need approval, it'll route it for workflow. And when it's approved, you'll be notified that you have a approved PO number and you can go shopping. Then you go shopping. You buy the stuff that you need. Okay. When you come back, you go back to the spot by PR and you enter the details. You enter the description. Hopefully you'll match it to item number itself. Okay, but you can enter the vendor catalog number, the manufacturer model number, and all that stuff. You enter all the details. Now, you have the same receipt as the buy would have had, okay? But you just came from the store. You know what 6CU steel A means. The buyer would probably have no clue what that is, but you just picked it up. You carried it back to the plant. You know what this is. This is a very cryptic description the Home Depot provides, but you just handled that. The item, you have a much better idea of what it might be. And secondly, you have the Home Depot's catalog number. And we use that. If you specify the catalog number, we'll look up the catalog number if it's been previously purchased, and we'll bring in the details. Oh, this is this item number itself. So we will try to help you figure out the actual item number in the Maximo catalog that this actually is referenced to or points to. Okay, so basically, the vendor's catalog number can be used, and the requester has a lot more better idea of what this is and can make sense of this cryptic receipt. Circumventing the system by adding each line as a material. Yes, they could do that. They could just put in, hey, this is a miscellaneous item, and just put a little description. They could put in that 6CU steel A if they wanted to. Okay. But we could make them actually put more information. We can actually specify that they have to specify the catalog number, that they have to specify the manufacturer, the model, and so forth. And when we use that information to look up and try to find a match to an item master record. And if we find a match, we'll then point it and say, this is not a miscellaneous material item. This is an inventory item, a master item type record. And therefore, you'll be able to track the items every time they're purchased. Okay, and then pre-appraisal policies. If the amount was pre-approved before, they will not. It will just process. If it's above the pre-approved amount, it'll request that it be approved again through workflow. Or if it was not pre-approved, then it'll go for workflow for approval. Okay, and once, like I said before, once it's approved, the PO lines are generated, and the PO and purchase requisition are closed. When the buyer approves the items, okay, items are received with the requester set as the receiver because they actually did receive it. They were in the store, they bought it, they took it with them, so they received it. So we create receipt transactions in the background with the requester, the person who went to the store, as the receiver. And the PO and PR are closed, and now you have everything in place. Okay, the process continues. Now the approved PO exists, matching exactly what was purchased and received and ready for the invoice, and as many of the items as possible are being tracked by their actual maximum item number. Now you can analyze the data. You have an audit trail of what was purchased and received, when, by whom, for what, and how much was paid. And you know it was a spot buy purchase, and the reason for spot buy was necessary, was specified. That's your reason for failure. So you look at that information, you analyze that information, and you take corrective actions. Corrective action could be carry additional inventory. Maybe you don't carry enough inventory of a particular item. Okay, make approved products easier to order and fulfill quickly. If they knew they could just go online and do punch out or something and get the stuff delivered tomorrow, they might not go to the store today. And guide the user to take the right steps and decisions and follow your business policies. Okay. The system allows you to track all the rogue spending so that it can be analyzed and resolved. It's up to you to basically take corrective actions after that. And that's it, basically. Just want to point out that you can learn more about all sorts of supply chain issues and opportunities and innovations at our upcoming Maximo Supply Chain Matters Conference. It's an annual conference once a year, held in March of every year. The next one is March 1st to 3rd of 2027. And thank you very much. If there's any further questions, or if there are questions, please feel free to ask them right now. So I'll open up the floor. Are there any questions?